Alright guys, welcome back to the channel, and this is just going to be an impressions video about Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, before going any further, I would just like to say do subscribe to my channel for more content and do like this video if you like it. So it really makes me happy. Now, as far as Assassin's Creed Valhalla is concerned, I made a video about 10-15 days before the launch of Assassin's Creed Valhalla saying that Valhalla is most probably going to suck. And a lot of people did not like it. But again, that was my own fault. I put that video in the Assassin's Creed subreddit, and that's probably not the best place to say that the next game is going to suck. But anyway, was I right with my predictions? Well, yes, but also no. So there are a few things that I kind of predicted in that video that are true and that are right. There are a few things that I predicted in a different video that are also true and are also right. But overall, I would still say this game has exceeded my expectations. But the important context of that statement is that my expectations were at the bottom. Because after Odyssey, what do I even expect from a franchise that had released a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey? Now, I know many of you people love Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I am not dunking on your tastes. It's just that after playing games like the older Assassin's Creed games, after playing RPGs like Fallout, after playing RPGs like Skyrim, Witcher 3, Dragon Age even, after playing those games, Assassin's Creed Odyssey just felt wrong. Because it was not an Assassin's Creed game by any stretch of the imagination. But at least it would have been a good RPG. But except it was not that either. Because the games that I just mentioned are miles ahead. They are miles ahead of anything that Odyssey could put in the table. So, coming from that perspective, I had the perspective that even though Valhalla is saying, oh, we are making these improvements, we are having so much, I felt like this is more like PR speak, and I felt maybe this wasn't going to be the case. But I'm happy to report that I was wrong on those counts. Valhalla is a huge improvement, at least from what I have played so far. This is probably the best opening in an Assassin's Creed game I have ever seen. Like, there is no other Assassin's Creed game where I've seen an opening which is this deep and which is this character driven. Like, yes, we can select our Eivor's gender, but that's where the choices really end. Even though we have choices, these choices always seem like they were made by Eivor and not us, which was a huge problem with Odyssey. In Odyssey, every choice felt like it was made by us rather than Cassandra. And here it feels like the choice is made by Eivor, not us. We are just choosing among the options of things that Eivor might just say. So in that sense, it does work. In fact, the story, characters, so far, everything is good. Everything is really good. Story makes sense. So that is already a huge improvement over Odyssey, at least in my books. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, which is the gameplay. Now, you might say the gameplay is pretty much the same as it has been since Origins. I mean, it is an incremental improvement, but it's really not enough to justify itself as a whole new system, and I agree. In fact, it does feel like they were doing the exact same things as Origins, but then Breakpoint happened and they were like, yeah, we can't do that anymore. Let's just try something else, let's just try streamlining it a bit, and that's where we end up here. With that being said, I still do like this system much better than I liked Odyssey's. Like, for example, there is no hard cap on the content. What I did for my particular playthrough, and you might have seen in some of the episodes, or you are going to see it in the later episodes, the gear that I'm wearing is actually like endgame gear. Like, I have basically all the armor sets from the Magister set, all the armor pieces from the Hidden One set. That's because I went out and roamed the world. And I never once had a moment where I regretted going into the very high level area. Yes, I could not defeat them, but I could just hold them off long enough to escape, maybe let it settle down a bit, and then come back and kill them. And I succeeded in doing that. I never had a problem in doing that. So I felt like the game is sufficiently balanced that you can just go and explore the world without getting into the risk of getting caught by extremely high level enemies and getting one shot. And without having an option to fight back. Here we can at least fight back. So that is already a huge improvement in my books. Now, as far as the exploration itself goes, exploration is much better than Odyssey. Now you can say that some of the locations look the same because it's England in 8th century. Is it 8th century? Is it 9th century? I am never good with these things, so it's probably the 9th century. So it's England in the 9th century. It's a civilization in decline. It is supposed to look kind of samey, kind of depressing, kind of dead, eerily dead in fact, and that is the vibe this game is going for. It's not that it can't be that vibrant experience of ancient Greece, it's just that it's not the kind of setting that would enable that. Now a debate can be made that if that is the case, why are we making this the primary setting? We could have set this in the heights of the Roman Empire. Yes, we could have done that, but they didn't. Again, it's something that the developers made a choice on. Nothing really I can say about this. But overall, it's not a disappointment for me. And I would say it's a much better experience because you don't know exactly what you're going to get. Yes, you can see, that, okay, there's a golden dot there. Maybe I'll get something interesting there. You go towards it, and even if you use your bird, you can't actually see what exactly is there. Unless and otherwise you go into the location, you look at what you are trying to loot, and then you will understand what's actually there. Or you could just use your Odin sight, or as we call it, eagle vision, and you will still know. But you still have to get there and use it before you know exactly what's in this area. You will never know what you are going to get there. And that is a huge improvement because in Odyssey it was like, oh, bandit camp. Okay, that's done. Now what? Okay, another bandit camp. Okay, that's done. Now what? Oh, there's a cave and there are exactly 2 lootable chests and 1 item, or 2 lootable chests and 1 captain guard that you need to kill to complete this location. And none of that bullshit exists in Valhalla. So the exploration is actually much more organic than you think. And it is something that you need to experience for yourself. You are not going to get what's in the game by just me talking to you or even by just watching the videos. It's an experience that you need to feel. So there is that. Now, that is not the entirety of the gameplay, because the gameplay, if we are going into gameplay, we also need to discuss the gear system and we also need to discuss the actual combat and the assassinations and stuff. So as far as stealth goes, stealth is pretty much the same as in Odyssey. I did use a little bit of social stealth, but I did not like it on the fact that the walking speed on PC is so slow. It is so incredibly slow. I know this is a nitpick, and I've written a post on Reddit, and it was there as well. I'll link it down in the comments below. So it is so slow that honestly, even Altair in Revelations, the 92-year-old Altair in Revelations, is moving faster than my Eivor with a cloak. So yeah, they need to address that a bit. In PC, when you're walking, the speed is already very slow. Now, of course, the normal walking speed you can adjust in the settings, but with the cloak, you can't really adjust that speed. So it feels incredibly slow. That needs to be tweaked a bit. So just, if anyone from Ubisoft is watching this, please consider tweaking it a bit. So, but other than that, the social stealth works really well because you can blend in. You can do various things to blend in, like in fact things that weren't even present in the older games. Like in the peak of Assassin's Creed, these things weren't there. We can interact with the environment, we can stand up and make bread, we can sit down with people and start or pretend to eat, or we can hire maybe a drunk to distract the guards. So mechanically, I would say this is a better social stealth system than we had before, even though it doesn't really blend you into every single crowd. I would like that to be the next addition into this system. So I would say this is a very sufficient system, and stealth, because of these features, feels a lot better than Odyssey, even though the systems themselves are pretty much the same. And of course, if you want to play like the older original Assassin's Creed games, you have the option of turning on always assassinate. So like, there's an option in the menu, I think it's in the gameplay section under the stealth difficulty, where you can just enable that option and you will always kill an enemy on assassination, and I feel that is the way you should go. Now the game says this is not the way the game is meant to be played, and I feel like, yeah, just go away. I'm not even close to listening to you. If I have an option of a guaranteed assassination, then I'm going to take it, because yeah, of course I will. Now, does that change what this game is? Not really. It is still very much that tired old Ubisoft RPG thing that they have been trying out for quite a few years now. The system has its limitations. The gear system is actually good, but again, it is limited by the systems that Ubisoft has put in. The gear system is really good because you get set amount of gear every single place that you visit. If it has a particular gear, that gear is going to be the only way you get that specific part of that particular gear set. You are not going to get duplicates anywhere, be it common items, be it legendary items. There are no duplicates, and in fact you can take those common items and you can upgrade them to their maximum stats and make them legendary. And don't worry, it's not just that you just pick a random normal sword and you make it legendary and it still looks like that random normal sword. Even the appearance of these swords change over time, like it kind of would. If I had to reforge something like that, I would change the appearance a bit, make it look cooler maybe. So yeah, it does do that. So in a way, this is an innovation on the system that Assassin's Creed Unity started, rather than an innovation on a system that Odyssey did. Because Odyssey's gear system was horrible. Because even the legendary gear was just recolored versions of the normal gear that we were wearing. So I never felt like I'm wearing anything special. Except for the two gear sets. One was the Amazon set and one was the replacement Amazon set for Alexios, which we even got later as Cassandra anyway. So there was that. So yeah, that's basically it. It's an improvement on the system of Unity. Now I don't know how many gear sets are there and how much gear am I actually going to collect and how many weapons are there, but I still feel at the rate that I have explored and the kind of gears that I have unearthed, I feel like there is a lot less variety than there was in Unity, which is a shame. Because I still feel Unity's system was brilliant. Add an upgrade system to Unity and that is the gear system you should have. Because there's so many options and you will always find something that you will like. Like there is no chance that there is nothing in that particular menu that you just don't like. There's always something you're going to love in Unity in terms of the gear, in terms of the swords, in terms of whatever you want in the weapon section. So yeah, I still feel like they could have done a little more with the amount of gear that you can collect, but again, it's a decision that they have made, nothing really I can say about it. Now to combat. I have already made my views very clear about Odyssey and people might dislike me for that, but honestly I don't really care. But this is something I actually praised Odyssey for. It's combat. Because Odyssey was the first Assassin's Creed game in my opinion which nailed the combat. It absolutely did. Now of course the hits didn't have that much impact because I have said this before, if you make an RPG, a stat based RPG, where like levels matter and all that, yes, it's always going to feel like your hits don't really have that weight behind it. But even with that, I felt like the way Odyssey handled combat was good. It was very flashy and over the top. It did not suit Assassin's Creed in any sense of the fashion, but it was a good system. And the very fact that Valhalla has actually taken that system, improved it, made it heavier, made it a little weightier, a little bit slow, and also removed those flashy over the top abilities, that's really good. That's exactly what I wanted from the game. So kudos for the development team to do that, because that is exactly what I wanted. Now that basically covers all the bases. I've compared it to Odyssey, I've compared it to every single big RPG, but what do I actually feel about this game? I feel like this game still misses the mark. It's good. Don't doubt the fact that this game is actually good, because if you are someone who liked Odyssey, you will probably like this one better. If you are someone who did not like Odyssey, you will still like this game. Hopefully. But the thing that this game is missing is the thing that I have a problem with almost every Ubisoft game. And that is the debate between going a sandbox style experience or a more handcrafted story. Now, what do I mean when I say that? What I mean is, if you take a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, it was not an RPG. Like, you can say it's loosely an RPG because it does have like some perks and stuff, but it's definitely not an RPG. It's an action adventure game, and that is what Assassin's Creed is supposed to do. But even more than that, in Red Dead Redemption 2, every single piece of content feels like it is handcrafted to give you a very specific experience. And for games like these, that handcrafted experience is very necessary. Now, that doesn't mean that Ubisoft should not make these sandbox style experiences. In fact, I would say another Ubisoft game that released just 10-15 days ago at this point, Watch Dogs Legion, that actually benefits from it not being absolutely handcrafted and everything being decided for the player. It actually benefits from that sandbox experience, even though you can do many things to improve with that game, but it still kind of benefits from being that sandbox style game. But on the same note, Assassin's Creed does not, because I have played Origins, Odyssey, and now Valhalla. Now, of course, not to completion. Valhalla is not completed for me yet, like not even close to being completed yet. But even now, I can see that this lack of a focus on the story, this lack of a focus on a set path, is really hurting the game. It hurt Assassin's Creed when it was Odyssey. It hurt Assassin's Creed. It is hurting Assassin's Creed even now. You can take the case like, okay, Witcher 3 had dialogue choices. Is that not handcrafted then? Even with the dialogue choices, Witcher 3 was still very much crafted and very focused on what it was trying to do. Yes, there were other side quests. You could go out and find some old lady's pan, for crying out loud. But it was still more focused on the story. The story did drag on a little bit, even in Witcher 3, not gonna lie. But the story was always focused. You knew what you were trying to do. The experience was very much tailored to it being Geralt's story, rather than it being story of a random character that you were controlling. I never felt like I was controlling Geralt as much as I was helping Geralt get to his objective. Here I feel like I am more controlling the character. I am not making any sense right now, but I honestly do not have the words to describe myself properly, because I'm not that good with language, I'm not that good with words. So yeah, it needs to be more handcrafted, and that is something that Assassin's Creed has been lacking. That is why Ghost of Tsushima got so much praise, because even though it has some sandbox style elements, it is still a very handcrafted experience. And that is something that Assassin's Creed needs, and unless and otherwise Assassin's Creed doesn't employ that, it's never going to be compared to one of the greats. It's never going to be compared to a Witcher 3, it's never going to be compared to a Red Dead Redemption 2, or not even a Ghost of Tsushima, because it's just not there. It's lesser than those games. And unless and otherwise Assassin's Creed magically changes course and decides to take a risk with these sort of things, I don't see how this franchise can be great. And that is coming from a huge fan of the franchise, because I have played every single Assassin's Creed game. This channel is almost literally based on Assassin's Creed. So yeah, that's where I am. That's how I feel about this game. It's a good game, yes, but I still feel like it's being held back from being a great game. But again, those are my views. You may agree, you may disagree, but I would like to know what you think down in the comments below. So yeah, do let me know what you guys think. Is it good? Is it great? Is it bad? Is it something in the between? Do let me know down in the comments below, and I'll leave you guys with it. So, peace.